I don't know how much value I have in this universe, but I do know that I made a few people happier than they would have been without me. And as long as I know that, I'm as rich as I ever need to be.
Hey kid, what time is that?
It's time to refresh.
Back once again with another episode. This is part 2 of Groove Control's story. We sort of left it on a cliffhanger, didn't we? We were just about to get all spicy and exciting.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah.
I think we got to about 2016 and you just...
I think it was 14, 15 maybe, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Depends.
And basically we were just getting to the juicy bits where it's starting to sort of take off again for you. So I just thought I'd carry it on and meet up today. And there was like stuff that we afterwards talked about and we're like, oh yeah, we didn't cover this bit, we didn't cover this bit. So part 2 is definitely needed for it, so to say.
Yeah.
And obviously people wanted to hear about the more recent stuff as well, so we're good to go. Basically where we left off at is you started doing the dig and dag stuff. You were doing your groove control releases and stuff.
Yeah.
Coming back and you said you'd spent time with some people in the studio, sort of trying to enhance your
touched
levels. Touched on that briefly. So basically what I wanted to get at was, I want to talk a bit more about production and that as well today. Basically last time we were here, I wanted to cover the sort of the aspect of you leveling up, like, because as good as your old stuff was, you agree with me yourself that there was a big step up where your music got fatter. I think the music itself, the melodies, the chord progressions, everything just got much more depth to it. So was that a conscious decision to like sort of upskill yourself, would you say?
Yeah, you've just got to constantly look at how can you improve. Is this song as good as it can be?
Yeah.
And it's a double-edged sword because obviously you don't want to do too much to songs, but at the same time you want to, if you can't improve certain aspects, at least make the quality of it better than what it needs to be. Like a lot of bass lines need subs, like to feel it in a club, not just hear it but feel it.
Yeah.
But no, I got very limited with what I could do, and I wanted to see how could I improve it. And the only way, the quickest way you can improve is go in with someone who is genuinely better than you.
Yeah.
And I actually did that with a couple of people.
Yeah.
Now the side track of that is they do engineer a track for you. However, you've gone in with the idea for the track. By going in with the idea, you've gone in with what the sound you're after, the idea you're after, and then as they do it, you ask them the questions like, so why do you do this? Why do you do that?
Yeah.
And that's all it is. That's the only way you're going to get better quicker. Or you can sit there and watch YouTube videos, and sometimes it's swallowing your pride because some people don't agree with going in with engineers, but if there's someone better than you, I always agree go in with them and get, even if it's once or twice, just going in once or twice can improve your sound quality tenfold, or you may find like a little trick that you never realised.
Well, don't take it the wrong way, but like your production went from here to here after.
Yeah,
and you can tell who you'd been in with as well because you could the sound went up to sort of their level as well. Do you know what I mean? Like so for instance, when I'd started heard your kicks and basses, you could see the way that you'd take it on the way they compress a kick drum, for instance.
Yeah.
You don't mind me saying who you were with the so you were obviously with...
I'm more curious to see if you know who I was with.
Were we with Glenn?
Yes. Glenn's the one who I went in with the most to learn the most because he was doing the style that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Or he had that sound nailed down, like the big hard style, synthy sound, and I loved a lot of the stuff he was doing with Whitby and the Energy Syndicate, and weirdly, I only realised he was in Manchester thanks to Dave Gray, because which is literally he was literally half an hour away from where I lived, and I thought, well, it suits going 4 hours down south to see Alf, or going to Yorkshire to see Digimath at the time as well. So, but yeah, he was there. He could easily do big massive sounds, big massive bass lines, and that sorted with me. But each one of them has something that you learn from. It's just
Different.
I went in with Glenn and I learnt more.
Yeah.
Plus, I was upgrading my computer at the time because it couldn't withstand what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty much me sounds more influenced from Glenn than it is anyone else, if I'm being honest. But
Yeah.
it
You can see with you though, like with the way, say for instance, I'll use there's a couple of off the top of my head that I could say. You did the cover of One Happiness. You did Discoland. Them tunes. You can tell you've implemented Glenn's influence of production. Does that make sense? See
Yeah.
how how big the bass line sounds and how it's not. How can I describe it? It's not the way he's EQ'd it as such, or compressed it or whatever. But it's you can tell that you've learned techniques. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
it's when you see it being made in front of you and you can ask the questions. Now, fair enough, the basic idea gets put down for you.
Yeah.
Or he asks you, what do you want it to sound? When you go in with these people, they literally said, what do you want to do today?
Yeah.
Or they ask you this in advance, what are you looking to do?
Yeah.
I'm looking to learn. Now, a lot of them say the best way to learn is do a track.
Yeah.
So you can watch me, and anything you see which you're not sure of, ask me a question. I'll give you the honest answer, and then you take that home and adapt that to your own
Exactly. Yeah.
like style, what you're after. Now, I'm not saying directly copy people, but take the techniques away because the techniques in there are all the same.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of the time it's the same. It's the same stuff. It's just you EQ. It's slightly different. It's all the same
Yeah.
synths and sounds, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just how it's EQ'd a lot of the time. But it's when you go in with them type of sounds, the big hard style sounds and
Yeah.
stuff like that. There's only so many places it works. It works at all the big full clubs. It works at all the big happy festivals. But it's when you go into like the everyday towns,
Yeah.
it doesn't work as much.
Yeah.
So you've got to be wary of adapting certain sounds. You've always got to try and go broad with it
Yeah.
because not everything works wherever you go, and that's the other side of why. When as much as I loved going in with Glenn, you could see there was limitations to that sound. You could see limitations to almost every sound.
Yeah.
But unless you get to the big festivals like in our scene, it will probably be like where we just had Restricted.
Yeah.
Where it's just rammed full of people and you can play whatever you want to some degree.
Yeah.
You got the BTRDs where you can play whatever you want to some degree.
Yeah.
So as long as you got a smart head on, you can get away with certain styles, but
You couldn't turn up to a boozer on like a Friday night somewhere in some random town.
yeah, you couldn't really get away with this big happy synth, say, like, as you just said, it like a boozer or a regular gig every weekend. You might get away with one or two in the entire night, but you won't be able to get away with a full hour of it. You'll probably clear the dance floor, and that's the sad reality of music in general. You can't just hammer all one style and it'll work all night.
Yeah.
Sometimes the dance floor will clear, and then you've got to earn your wage and try and claw them back.
Yeah, yeah.
But-
Yeah, you are earning your wage then as well, aren't you? It's not just a simple play the tunes. Yeah. So, sort of going forward with that, did you notice that when you were using these techniques with that you picked up off these different producers, Alf as well had been another big influence as well.
I went in with Alf once, and I wish I went in more, but he moved to Australia.
Yeah,
Then.
unfortunate, isn't it? But did you see that how the reactions on the dance floor when you were say I don't know what gigs were you playing at the time, roughly 2016? Were you were Sopranos resident then, weren't you?
Yeah, I think I was coming near to the end of my first run with them,
Right.
around about that time.
So when you were dropping these tunes that these new style tunes that you were doing, where you can clearly see the difference.
I think it was about 2017 or 2018 when I started going in with Glenn, but my sound started adapting, and it started moving away from me being in the Sopranos like style at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a DJ and you're good enough DJ, it doesn't really matter what style. You know roughly what to play.
Yeah.
But my production style was not being catered towards the Soprano sound anymore, or it wasn't being supported by their DJs. That's not a criticism. Everyone's got their own style.
Yeah.
But it depends on where you are, depends on the night, depends on the crowd.
Were you noticing the difference though? With
Oh, you notice the difference instantly with the production.
Yeah.
The more and more better your tunes sound, you can instantly see the difference the second you play it in a club, because
the reactions are bigger, aren't
the
they?
reactions are bigger, or you can just notice it in the system. Like,
Yeah.
I've already had a couple of DJs mention that you can instantly tell when something's either one of mine or it might be one of mine, because the basses just come. I don't know what it is. Like, it's just comes straight through the system.
Yeah.
They're full. That's the best way to describe that type of sound. Full.
Yeah.
But
There's like, I don't know whether you've noticed this or not, and this is more of a producer type thing, but with your tracks, so for instance, when you play back, what have you got at home? For instance, your monitors. What's your monitors you got at home?
oh, Yamaha HS7s,
Right, okay.
I think, and a sub.
Yeah.
But obviously, the sub's fantastic when you want to watch films.
Yeah.
If I want to watch films on my computer, you get the full sound of it all without it being overbearing. But or games on my computer as well, that helps them massively. But yeah, I've got that with a Focus. I can't remember what it is.
Is it the 212?
It might be. It's a sizable.
Oh no, it's a one from that. I can't remember what the number is.
Yeah, it's a sizable one. I've got a Native Instruments keyboard.
Yeah.
My computer, which Glenn helped me build.
Yeah.
Well, Glenn pretty much built it for me, and I was just there giving instructions of how, because he knew he was going to get it set up the way I wanted it set up, and it was more cost. It was cost effective doing it that way. But running back and forth from shops because certain computer components didn't fit. But
that's hard work.
Yeah, it cost a lot of money, that, but it's future proofed anyway. I mean, I'll probably have to replace parts in the next few years, but
it's an investment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just an investment.
Yeah.
But in terms of like music things, I had the machine too as well, because I wanted to play the drums properly, and for some strange reason it doesn't agree with my computer at the minute. I don't know what it is. Because you don't really need it unless you really want to get into it with playing the drums. You don't really need it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I mean, you can hear it in the old sort of styles that they used to do, which is like I Wish, which was the rip off of Philip George's.
Yeah. Good tune as well.
Yeah. You can hear the drums in that, where I've actually put them in and keyed them in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But other ones, you just sort of realise you don't really need. It's just trial and error, and a lot of the time it's you either scale stuff back to the bare bones and then come forward, or like in tracks, you don't need everything going on in tracks. You can just bring it back as much as you can. And a lot of time, a kick an offbeat bass and a really good vocal, and maybe a catchy little,
like little synth sound or something.
Yeah, I mean, that Good Love at the minute from Hannah Lang seems to be the perfect example. Just strip the whole thing back. It is just really a kick, a bass, a vocal, and a catchy little. That's it. That's the whole track.
Yeah.
And it works for that reason. Class. So I think Rob Kane told me something years ago, which was less is more.
It is, absolutely. I've seen a lot of people where they try and get intricate and do a million different things with for one sound. It's like, well, if you'd have just used these two sounds initially, you've got everything that's got, and you've just put hours into it, and it's like sometimes less is more.
Yeah, you soon realise when you're doing bass lines the way I do them, is you're throwing like 5 or 6 bass lines together and you compress them as much as you can, and then you soon realise I've just spent like an hour and a half of my life doing nothing when I could just go and drag and drop.
Yeah.
But the other thing to that is sample quality.
Yeah.
Newer samples are better quality. That is a fact.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to work on samples, save all your samples that you've worked on. So if you really like a bass line that you've just worked on, render the bass line out. As a producer, that's what I'd do. Just render everything out. I'm on Ableton, so I can automatically collect every sample in the project.
Yeah.
Even the ones I've actually...
It's still in the VST sort of
thing. Yeah, near enough. So if I really want, I've got everything ready in a folder, so if I want to throw stuff in as quick as I can, which is the whole idea, if you've got a good idea, get it down as quick as you can. But
I was asking you about the speakers and what speakers you had, because there's some of your bass lines that you can't hear, but then you are one of maybe a handful of people within the bouncing that I've noticed this with. Is so the technical side of it is once it gets to a certain level, I think it's about 30 hertz or something like that, maybe even 50. These Yamahas and all these monitors that people pay for, even the Adams and everything like that, people are paying thousands for. They will not attempt to replicate anything below that, so that's where it drops off. That's why a sub becomes then useful. When you play your tracks back through monitors without the sub, so in any sort of, whether it's a KRK or the Yamahas or anything, you'll get like a nice full sound. You play in a club where there's the sub in the system, you can feel the difference in the track.
Oh,
because
yeah.
that sub is replicating it as a passive sort of speaker, and it sounds heavy. I think that's where people are maybe referencing your tracks. Bedroom producers are referencing your tracks because that's got a fat bass on it, and they're maybe cutting off maybe too much when they're doing it. Do you know what I mean? Because they haven't got the sub there as well.
I just think it's the samples.
I
genuinely do. There's no, unless you're making a donk sample from scratch.
Yeah.
A lot of them lack below a certain frequency, and we're getting into technical talk here. And by the way, if you can hear nothing but noise, I don't know if they will.
No.
We've got someone probably in the next room playing the hardest hard techno I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like, it may as well be hardcore without it's just a kick and a bass. That's it, nothing else. That's all we're hearing at the minute. But no, bassline wise, I've always liked heavy basses. I do like dubstep, not a lot, but I do like dubstep. I love a lot of old garage, just the big whomp sounds, because I love being able to feel the bass in clubs. And to me, it's like, the best example is lockdowns proved what I missed about clubs.
Yeah.
And I think I seen a video. I was watching Chris Lake do the Red Bull make a track thing on YouTube. You can look it up. And he makes a track live there and then. Yeah. Now, if you scroll down in the comments, like, you're watching him make this track live to some degree. And if you scroll down in the comments, you actually see a video of him playing it in a massive festival in America. And then, I don't know what it is, you can't replicate that sound at festivals.
Yeah.
And it's always the bass distorts the video to some degree.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I just love that whole feel of when you walk in a festival, you can feel feel the
rather
bass
than hear it. Yeah.
And you get sort of excited about knowing what you're walking into.
Yeah.
And then you actually eventually hear it. So I've always been a fan of make it good sound good at home, but try and make it sound good in the club.
Yeah.
The sub does help with that. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a hindrance as well, because sometimes when you play it on tellies, you can't hear the bass and you're like, that doesn't really sound as good as what I thought it would at home. But that's come through trial and error. But a lot of the time it's just throwing a sub under and just compress the sample and goes in. But when you've gone in with Glenn, which is near enough everything's a massive, heavy bass line, he's influenced by a lot of like dubsteppy sounds or electro sounds, and as I say, the Melbourne sound, which he became synonymous with. Then started moving into hard style as well, and it just went from there. Alf has always been good, no matter what. So he just makes whatever him.
Godlike.
And pretty simple how he works as well. It's ridiculously scary how simple he works.
He
doesn't do any compression. He just goes in and we've got a peak here. I'll edit it that little 1/2 a second, not even half a millisecond, and lower it, and then put it back in, and then compress it, and it just go. It's really weird how he does it, but it's so simple. The other side of it is, well, when you go in with Digimath and he does the funky stuff. What's another thing with funky music that you need? You need a good bass line. Everything's bass line orientated. At the end of the day, the kick and the bass line is near enough to two. Well, pretty much is the most important things in a track, apart from the melody. So if you get them right, you've got the core of the track down.
Would you agree with this then? I've heard tunes in the past, and because they've got a really good kick and bass line, and it carries the sort of weight of everything, right? Sometimes the elements on top aren't great, but it's still a good tune because...
Yeah, the best example of that is Woody. DJ Woody, got to get into it. There's nothing to that track, but that kick and bass line works for that track. No, that really is. If you show that to anyone, that's a track where you sit there and you go, is that it?
Yeah.
But it works.
Yeah.
And no one, that's just the beauty of music. You can listen to the most intricate style of music and be like, that's phenomenal. And then you can listen to a kick and a beat, kick and a bass line,
It works.
and nothing else for like 7 minutes, apart from maybe a little tiny stab here or there. And you go, that works just as well as that would.
Yeah, it's crazy. Isn't
It's a fine balance. Plus, no one knows what's going to be a hit.
Yeah,
No
a lot of
one
people
knows.
seem to think that they do, but like you see these A&R people, and it's like, oh, I'm not interested in this sound, I'm not interested in this sound, and you see people now who's knocking donk out at 135, and it's going massive. You'd never have guessed that.
It's good for views. It's more good for views. I think I seen a post of Ben Nicky the other day, which basically said it looked like he was getting criticised for not putting like hard trance stuff up online, and he put up saying something along the lines of, "It's not good for views. I still do it at them nights, but it's not good for views."
Yeah, it's good in the moment.
Yeah. I think our style of music is good 1 or 2 tracks in the middle of a set.
Yeah.
Just for impact value.
Yeah.
Plus, if you've noticed, a lot more bigger artists or going to be bigger artists are starting to drop this style of music more. What I love more about it all at the minute is, whether you see the benefit of it or not, personally, the music's always needed to be a bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's never needed to be one dedicated genre to this one style.
Yeah.
Even when I done Void, which we can talk about that at some point if you want.
Yeah.
Even when I started doing Void, you never just played house. You played garage, you played techno, you played tech house, you played piano house, organ house, whatever. There's so many sub-genres, it gets ridiculous because good music is good music. You shouldn't have to say it. And sometimes you played old Clubland classics and it just worked just as well. I mean, you have to pick and choose which ones to play.
Yeah, you can't just stick any.
Yeah, I mean, you could throw a random, say, Clubhead's kicking hard randomly in the middle, and it might get a good reaction, but then you've got to think, hang on, I've got to drag this back down now to just a simple track. I've gone from like something which is really heavy to basically that. But as I say, that's reading the crowd.
Yeah, riding the wave as well of like having to bring it back down, having awareness of having to bring it back down, just because you can build it up and get the same buzz again.
In other words, Siggy break.
yeah.
You have to plan for the amount of smokers that you might have in the club.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and that's something the smoking ban done. Now, some people may not agree with that, but you can't play a full 6 to 8 hours and expect people to stay in the dance floor no matter what. So you've got to plan, right? I've got to play like 1 or 2 tracks here, which might disperse the dance floor slightly.
Yeah.
And then you've got to start playing to get people back, or you've got to start playing it so people will go to bar.
Yeah.
So there's certain things you learn in residency, and that only comes through trial and error, unless you're just a prodigy like Rob is, with just, you can go into any club and just sort of being able to just go, right, yeah, I'm playing this and it works. There's a few people who can do that, but no, in terms of me bass lines on production, I just love being able to feel the bass lines. I love just how it all. I mean, when you drop a track in a club, you want the track to have impact.
Yeah.
And it's not just how it sounds; it's how it feels. And if you feel the bass line coming at you, like more, I don't know. It's my personal preference.
It is. Yeah.
Some people like a donk, which is a really high pitched donk, and there's no bass behind it.
Yeah.
It just sounds good. But for me, it's not just sounding good, it's being able to...
You'll never please everybody with the way you do it as well, regardless if you did a high-pitched donk or a nice sub.
No, some people don't like the way I make music now, but that's personal preference.
It is personal preference, yeah. We sort of got off on a tangent there, but I think people will really appreciate your view on it as well. Like that, I think. Fantastic.
Whether people care or not's the question.
Yeah. So, like I said, your sound had changed and stuff like that. And you were getting these gigs. So what was like 20? We'll say 2016 to 2020, just before the pandemic. What was that like gigs wise? Because you seem to be sporadically everywhere, and then
that more. Say from 2014 is where everything. I regress to 2014. 2014 is where pretty much everything started falling into place.
Yeah.
And then you could sort of ride the wave to some degree for a few years. It's just now if I knew what I knew now and I could go back.
Yeah.
Now, this is the case of everything with hindsight. Now, I'm not just saying this in general. I'm saying I don't market myself very well.
Yeah.
I've always said this. I am not brilliant at sales.
Yeah.
That's maybe one of my downfall. And to be honest with you, in a job where you've got to sell yourself, it's, you know, it's not easy. Some people have got the gift of the gab. Some people have no shame in being able to sell themselves, which is to some degree.
They sell no talent. Do you know what I mean? They're literally selling you no talent. They're like, and they're getting the gigs because they've got the marketing aspect nailed.
Yeah. I mean, there's some people in the scene who have got fantastic sales skills, and I might not like either the person personally. Yeah. I might like him enough just to be on friendly terms with them. That's not me saying I've got any ill will towards anyone. It's just you don't get on with everyone.
Yeah,
that's just life. Yeah, that's just life. But I can appreciate people for what they do.
Yeah.
Whether you like them or not, that's not the point. But or whether you personally like them, whether your political views, personal views, opinions, whatever, don't match. At the end of the day, you can appreciate skill. No matter what form it takes. Yeah. But seeing as we go regressing to 2014 with this now, I think in that year, 2013, I got the Acceleration. That's when I come back. Yeah. Apart from, I think I'd done a 2 bouncy gig before it, which got the bug.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Acceleration was the first proper gig, then Sopranos, and then I think maybe 1 or 2. But 2014 hit, and I ended up with a Medicine versus Overdose versus something else. Dose of Donk.
Yeah.
The infamous video where Lee asks me, oh, you're smashing everything, you're doing this, you're doing that, and I just turn around and go, yeah, cheers, thanks. And Mikey Davis put the monkey bloody noise in. Yeah. You don't know what that is, do we? Someone will probably put it up online or something.
Yeah,
but,
we know.
Yeah, that's basically.
You're smashing granny out of it, aren't you?
Yeah, that was one of the. That was one of the first runs which really got me. But as I say, it was a couple of gigs with that, a couple of videos we done. Yeah, and from there I was doing Pier. I think I was doing Pier literally the following weekend. Yeah, BTID at Park Hall, and I think that was weird. I think it was the first time they had Vecchi on. Yeah. And I remember John Guest being there. First time I ever met John Guest properly. Yeah. John G. And he got absolutely hammered that night as well. Absolutely hammered. Never seen anything like it. Yeah. But that was where I got in good grace with them. Yeah. And I think they've done a holiday, Lorette de Mar.
Yeah. That was 2014.
Yeah. So that was later on in the year. But from that Park Hall gig, there was someone was putting on a bounce night in Manchester. Yeah. Like bounce therapy, I think it was once a month. Yeah. And I think it was like a Friday or a Saturday, or one Saturday or one Friday a month or something like that. And Dave said to the guy, you'll get such and such on because he knows roughly all the cheesy vocals, cheesy tracks. Yeah. And they asked me, and he told me the wage, and the wage wasn't really that much at the time, but I didn't care because you take what you can get at the time. Yeah. Anyway, so done the gig, and all that, and then I got asked back. Then from there, I got asked again, and they said, "Can you play house or jacking and all these type of styles?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I can do it. I've never done it in a club. I've never done it in a club, but I can do it." And they said, "Well, we'll take a punt on you," and that's basically how I ended up with Void. Yeah. So me and Dave ended up covering the last set in Void in Manchester Canal Street. That's Gay Village for anyone who doesn't know. Yeah. And went from 2014 to 2019 pretty much until it shut, doing that set. So I always had that in the back of my mind, like you will see where that comes into it later, because if you're playing house music all the time, or you're constantly having to dig for tunes every week or every 2 weeks, because it was bi-weekly I was doing it. Now, bear in mind, that was at 7 o'clock till close. Now, close could be 10 or 11 in the morning on a Sunday. So they were heavy. And by the way, when that shut, some of them actually still went off somewhere and partied somewhere else. So, it was heavy, that. And it's really horrible walking into a gig and it's sunlight.
Yeah, broad daylight.
I like broad daylight, Sunday morning. There's something wrong about it. Yeah. I've always said that. I'd rather always walk into a club when it's dark and come out when it's light.
Yeah.
Like I did last night. I would rather. It's horrible, but I'd rather do that all day long.
Yeah.
But yeah. So basically, we went from Void, and then we later on in the year done a couple of other gigs, and ended up going to Lorette de Mar. I was going anyway for a holiday, and then I think Martin, Niger M, said to me, you know, while you're over there, if you want to do a set, we'll find a space for you. So, done one. I think I done a couple while I was over there, and the boat parties where it really took off.
Yeah.
And I think I'd done a bootleg to annoy another producer in the scene.
Yeah, we touched on this last time.
Which I think it was Knife Party Elrad.
Yeah.
And I listened to it and I thought that could be really, really good. That off, the way they'd done the offbeat bass line and the way it drops, I thought that could be a belter that. And I'd done it with a bootleg with another track, Summertime Sadness by Lana Del Rey.
Yeah.
And it worked.
It's probably what a lot of people will know you for if they watch the podcast.
To some degree, yeah. So basically, that and Oi seem to be the two which are bootlegged and seems to still be getting played now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we went on the boat party. It got dropped on the boat party. I've already played this track twice, by the way. Got no reaction technically from anywhere. Like, no, not to the degree that it got anything. And the reason why I say this is it's something that I keep saying to people. Tracks do not instantly hit. It takes about 5 or 6 plays to get a track over sometimes.
Yeah.
Unless it's on a music video, which has been promoted really well.
Yeah.
Or it's on club after party videos or stuff like that, the after video. Unless the music's on them videos, it doesn't really take off that much.
Yeah.
But I played... literally, I didn't know where to mix out of one of the tracks that Daz Birchall left me on.
Right.
So I knew that was what I would call a safe track. Now, a safe track to me is a track that goes into a breakdown.
Yeah.
Before it actually drops. That's
Right.
I've always perceived that as safe tracks because I don't know where to mix, but I can drop this wherever. So I'm mixing it, drop it, and then everyone's singing Summertime Sadness at the time, so it's no big problem. Then Elrad drops eventually, and I don't think anyone sort of anticipated the drop that happens from it. And that's where, because you're all on a boat, all, say, the important people who, like, you got all the people who run the gig, heard it and seen the reaction. Now, sometimes that doesn't happen because a lot of people on nights don't actually be able to see what the reaction's happening in the crowd. Now, they were there. Now, that's what I put it down to. They were there. They seen it. They felt it, and it went off.
Yeah.
And then, from then, it was just off I go. Yeah. And then from that, with bootlegs and stuff like that, it just sort of, it was just me being lazy, more or less, because I didn't have the quality that I will eventually have to be able to do 90% of these tracks. Yeah. But it was more trial and error. I wanted stuff to play, and it didn't always work. And you're just trying to find and adapt your sound.
Yeah.
But it's 2014 is the most definitive year. And then I had like a couple of gigs, say, from there to 2016. And I was going a lot of gigs with filming as well, so you're getting to see what gets played at them gigs as well.
Yeah.
Because I was his taxi and his carer for a few years there.
Shaw Philbin.
Yeah. He'll be made up now with this because he'll watch it. Because he was saying to me, oh, you didn't even get to it like the 2014, 2015 recent years. But yeah. But from that point, it was just, it kept building and building and building.
Yeah.
And I think it was around about 2016, I think I was just doing too many bootlegs, too much, or I just wasn't there yet with me sound. When you can't key and you can't play an instrument, it's really hard to make music.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to do one or the other, or at least understand.
Yeah.
I had to do everything pretty much myself until I went in with people. That's why I had to go in with people, because when you're looking in 2010 to 2014 on music videos, there's next to nothing on YouTube. It's all like Fruity Loops. It's all Fruity Loops, nothing for Ableton.
Yeah.
And if it is for Ableton, they show you in such a way that you wouldn't do that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
some
you wouldn't...
people, they'll go like 1,000 steps when you only need 3. Like,
yeah.
And it's like...
Sometimes you need a video just to show you, how can I be able to play the piano in it instead of having to just like play the piano and hear the notes. Just show me how to do that, because there's nothing that shows you how to do that unless you want to go into a book which is like 400 frigging pages just to find this one little thing you want to know. And that is what irritated me more than anything with that. So it was a slow process all the way through. It's a slog, absolute slog. Learning music's a slog, and that's why I understand why people go in with people.
Yeah,
like people go in with engineers, people go in with better producers, because you will learn more and you'll get more questions. Hence why we said earlier on when I had to go in with people. But yeah, goes into 2016. And I'm still getting booked at, like, say, Acceleration, sparingly, but I'm still getting booked at Acceleration. Still getting the regular BTID gigs, getting regular soprano. So I was on quite a lot of nights.
Yeah.
I wasn't on a lot of the ones which I wanted to be on, or I wasn't on at good times at a lot of the nights. But beggars can't be choosers, and you can't pick and you're not the one who's in charge of the night, so you get given your set time. If you can do your set time, not a problem. If you can't do it, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, as I say, I'd done a couple of big ones with BTID, which was like 53 Degrees as well. One of the last times I played there. I think I played there years and years ago, like 2009 and 8. And that was for Bounce Heaven.
Yeah.
And that was in like room 2. That wasn't the main room. And, you know, there's enough room in them. Sometimes there was enough room in them room 2s where a bus could drive through and still not hit anyone. So
Yeah.
It's very sparing amount of people in there, but your gig's a gig.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd say you get to 2016, I'm still trying to find my sound, still trying to find what I want to do music wise. It's taking a lot of influence from house music that I'm playing as well. And the best way to always learn how to do music as well as engineering is reverse engineer a track.
Yeah.
So the best way to do that was, there was a track by a Liverpool lad, Mick Willow, Michael Mandel, and he'd done a track called The Girl.
Right, yeah.
Which was, I think it was Todd Terry, Forget the Girl. Might be. So he'd done a track of that, and it was really good in Void. Mastered poorly, but it was really good. Yeah. So I reversed engineered that after I went in with Al, and I thought, well, Alf, by the way, technical. When I went in, after I went in with him, I reversed engineered the next track, which was The Girl. And it's the best way to learn, is try and deconstruct the track and make your track sound exactly like the other one, because you learn all the processes. Yeah. Like, how can I get this piano to sound like this? How can I get this bass line to sound like that? You learn more by doing that just as much as you would, right, I'm just going to do it however I want.
Rather than just write a tune, you're actually recreating a tune that's already there.
Yeah.
But whilst you're doing it, you're like, well, why doesn't my hi-hat sit like theirs? And it's like only when you really dig into deconstructing a track that you realise, right, okay, this is how we did this. It was only something simple, but at least I know how to do it now if I'm going to do it in the future.
That happens a lot when you're doing melodies as well. That really does happen a lot when you're doing melodies, because sometimes you sat there going, this should sound right, how I'm meant to be doing it. This should be this note, this note, this note, and then it should be going these 3 notes again. No, it probably only one note's been moved. It's all exactly the same. But I started investing in software there as well with my music production, which was fucking hell.
What the fuck?
Sorry, if you'd be really hearing this, it really is hard. I'd love to know what's going on. You know what? I don't mean this nasty now when I say this, but I can just imagine, like, full on goths in there.
Right. Just want to say we're back for 1 minute. The goths heard us and they're coming to knock Phil out. So
hey, I never actually said anything bad. You said you could smell them.
And yeah, I know. Could you know? But yeah, I just want to say we're going to be back for part 3 very, very soon. I appreciate I appreciate your time, Phil. Do you enjoy coming down here?
It's more for you, don't me. I only live around the corner.
Yeah, so we're going to come back.
You live 3 hours away?
And more. We're going to come back for part 3 very, very soon. Just want to say thank you to everyone for listening. As usual, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, Phil. We only scratched the surface there. But yeah, I hope their feedback doesn't come onto our recording because it's getting louder.
It really is. It's quite amazing. I'm fascinated to knock on to see what's going on, because all I've got in my head is just, how can I put it? Have you ever been to a dubstep or seen a dubstep festival where it's like,
like
that?
I don't think
if
I like
you
that.
really could hear it, it really is. I've never. What is it?
I know these are soundproof, these as well, and the door's shut out there, and we've got this door shut as well.
So they've got a door. That's soundproof. These walls are soundproof. Our doors are fully shut, and you can still hear it. And by the way, they're not actually the next room. Like I said earlier, we've just realised the 4 doors down. So
I don't
think
they're not even on the same side. They're over the other
I
side
don't even think people in there can hear
what they're doing.
If they could hear, I wouldn't be playing that music.
Yeah.
I'm not one to criticise music, but I couldn't handle that for a full hour. I went to a hard house night, Sund Essential in 20. Is it when was that? 2008. And I had to walk away from one of the DJs. I won't say the DJ's name, because I actually met the DJ years later, and I told him to his face, I said I couldn't fucking stand that set, because all it was just, it felt like. Have you ever been to a night and it sounded like the DJ hasn't mixed out of that one track?
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, there's no bass line change. There's no change at all.
Same
It's
key,
same, near enough the same key, same Hoover noises, same stabs. It feels like he's just put this track on loop for an hour. Play something different. Play something to break up the rhythm.
Yeah.
It's so irritating. It was just offbeat,
breakdowns for one bar as well, where it'll just go.
Yeah, it really was. It was just filth, and it wasn't even good filth. It was just, you walk away going, is he still playing the same tune? And then you hear like Blow Your Mind, Club Cavalier come on, and you're like, what is this greatness in the middle of this mess? I mean, I don't mean that nasty to anyone who loved that Sund Essential night at the time, but I mean, Dave laughs about it now. Dave Gray, General Bounce, for those who don't know, he laughs about it now because he said that's literally the extreme
of hard house,
really one side of the extreme. And then I went to Tidy Weekender once, and that was an experience. I've never seen so much drugs in my life. And I mean, I shouldn't really be saying that, but that's the fact. That's the fact. That is the fact. I've never walked into a chalet and literally their breakfast was drugs. It's like that skit from Harry Enfield where he goes like, where he does the Manchester lot, takes the mech out. He goes, what do you want for breakfast? Drugs on toast. That really was what it was like. You walk in, and I've never seen so many happy. You're probably going to have to cut this now. So if you wonder why we suddenly get a few snippets, that's why. But no, you can say it now. It's Preston. It's not Preston. It was Southport Pontons. Yeah, you'd have to be on drugs to fucking live to go there. I mean, I don't mean that nasty, but it's a shithole. It really is. I've been to a couple of Pontons now. Go to Haven. Go just
somewhere else.
Anywhere
else.
Rent a caravan. I know people say they take the. I don't mean it nasty when people go there, but it's a prison camp.
Yeah, I can know you're coming from.
You're locked in. Now people might say that when you go abroad, all inclusive. Yeah, but at least when you're abroad, all inclusive, you've got a pool.
Yeah,
you've got food.
It's decent.
Food.
Yeah.
No. What is left from the dregs of this seagull's back end? And kids who have touched every piece of fucking meat.
It's just the balk.
No, it's just. I don't mean it. I just don't understand Pontons. I'm probably not the only one who says this, because there's plenty of people who watch shit on YouTube saying Pontons is awful. The place hasn't changed since the 60s.
Yeah, it's the same decor and everything.
Exactly, everything's exactly the same. And when I went that Tidy Weekend, it's like you can see why people have raves there, but at the same time, no, they're awful. I really do. I went to Haven and Puelli. I hope I pronounced that right, and I loved it there. I loved it for a different reason though, just because it's literally in the middle of nowhere. It's like, because you're in the middle of nowhere, you drive out the site and you can go to the beach and all this. Now I know you can do that in Pontons, but you're in Southport.
And on that note, thanks for listening.
My rant.
I appreciate it. Nice one for coming on, mate. It's been special. Part 3 coming soon.